brackets are finally out for the D1 NCAA Wrestling Championships held in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania this year. That means we get to overanalyze them to a T. So who will win, who will upset, and who will repeat? Let's stop stalling and start talking wrestling. Hello everybody, my name is Josiah and welcome to Fanco Wrestling. This channel is all about wrestling news, tips, and lifestyle. And if you haven't yet, make sure you check out my official guide to the 2019 NCAA Wrestling Championships, where I talk all about what to do in Pittsburgh, who will win the Hodge Trophy, and who's looking to win a national title. So let's talk all about that. I'm going to run down the weights and talk about who I think is most likely to win a national championship. And guess what? They're not all the #1 seeds. So that means there are going to be upsets along the way, which that's what this championship is all about. And let's get into 125 pounds. At 125 pounds, this has been the talk of the season, really, besides a couple of these other weights, with Spencer Lee and Sebastian Rivera. Spencer Lee is the reigning national champ, and he's coming into his own home in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He's coming into the heart of the Whippeal, and he wants to win another title. But he has a couple guys in his way, including Nick Piccinini in the semifinals, who is undefeated and just pinned Spencer Lee a couple weeks ago. So I think, though, that Spencer Lee will upset Nick Pitch in the semis, make it into the finals. And who will he be wrestling? Well, of course, he will be up against Sebastian Rivera in the finals. And this will be the third time that these guys have wrestled this year at Midlands. And then Spencer didn't wrestle him in the Northwestern versus Iowa duel, but guess what? They wrestled at Big Tens and there was a controversial hands to the face call. So what's going to happen this time? Well, I think Spencer, in his hometown, he's going to pull out the victory. Spencer Lee, two-time national champ, looking for 4 titles. Make sure, as I'm talking all about this, you let me know who you think will win a national title. And is it the same prediction as mine? Probably not. At 133 pounds, we have another great weight. It's probably one of the best weights of the entire tournament, and there's so many variables here. Of course, at the top right now, we have Dayton Fix. Stefan Micic is at the bottom of the bracket as the #2 seed. Dayton Fix is #1. A couple other guys we have in this bracket. Of course, we have Austin DeSanto of Iowa, Nick Suriano of Rutgers, and then we have a couple other variables like Mickey Philippi and an Ethan Lezak. But don't forget about Roman Bravo Young and Luke Pletcher. Guys, there are so many people at this weight. It is crazy. Really, anybody could win, seeing as how these things go. But on the top half of the bracket, we have Dayton Fix, who I think will make it to the semis and go up against Mickey Philippi. Now, this will be a rematch, and I'll be talking all about that on this week's Fanco Wrestling show. And I'm just going to tell you right now, I think Fix is pulling off that win. He's going to avenge his loss. On the other side of the bracket, we have Nick Suriano, who I think could make it to the semifinals, depending on who's all there, because Micic, I think, will probably also make it to the semis and end up making it into the finals. But it's going to be tough to get past this field of competitors that's just extremely loaded. So Micic versus Dayton Fix. Now, these two guys have not wrestled this year, which makes this so much more exciting. Dayton Fix is a freshman, and Stefan Micic, he was in the national finals last year. Of course, he lost to Seth Gross of South Dakota State. But what will happen this year? Well, I have Micic, even though he didn't win the Big Ten championship because he was injured, I still have him winning the title. And that injury may play into effect coming up into the quarters, semis, and even the finals. But I have Micic winning the title at 133 pounds. Who do you have? At 141, this is another exciting weight. I mean, they all are. But at #1, we have Yianni Diakomihalis of Cornell. Honestly, I see him sliding right into the finals without a problem. He's undefeated on the season. He's even beat the #2 seeded guy in Joey McKenna. But on that bottom half of the bracket, we have Joey McKenna and Nick Lee. These two guys have wrestled a couple of times so far this season, and it has been close every single time. Of course, in the dual meet with Penn State and Ohio State, Nick Lee won that match, coming back and beating Joey McKenna. But what happened is in Big Ten tournament, Nick Lee lost to Joey McKenna in the semis. So What'll happen this time in Lee versus McKenna 3? Well, I actually have Nick Lee pulling out the victory just slightly. Every time these guys have wrestled, it's been close, and I really don't see it going any way differently. And that's if these two guys can both make it to the semifinals, which I think they can. But I have Nick Lee coming out on top and becoming actually Penn State's first finalist in the NCAA tournament. So I have Nick Lee versus Yianni Diakomihalis. What will happen here? Well, I really see Yianni pulling out the victory. How bad? I think it's going to be by a decision. He may pull out the major decision, but don't put it past Nick Lee to pull out some crazy Penn State move and score some points. But overall, I have Yianni winning 141 pounds. Going on to 149 pounds is a weight where Anthony Ashnault completely rules the field in. He's dominated this entire year. He beat Kolodzic, who was at the time the #1 seed, and I believe that he may wrestle him again in the semifinals on the top half of the bracket. But what will happen? Well, I still have Ashnault winning again. Last time he beat him by major decision. He beat him in the dual meet, but I actually see this match being a little bit closer this time, just a regular decision. And one of the first upsets in the semifinals that I see happening is actually Mitch Finesilver. I see him winning in the semifinals at 149 pounds, taking out Micah Jordan of Ohio State. Now, this would be pretty crazy because I mean, Finesilver is looking pretty good. Right now, he has a 28-3 record. He's looking to improve upon that. And, you know, he has an ACC championship title. So what could happen? I see him pulling off that victory and making it into the finals. I mean, with all the Finesilvers that are wrestling for Duke right now, one of them has to make it in the finals. And I'm picking you, Mitch, to get it done. And how will he do in the finals against Anthony Ashnault of Rutgers? Well, I actually see Rutgers crowning their first national champion in Anthony Ashnault. He's had a historic season, a historic career, and I see him pulling out the victory, possibly by a major decision, just because I know he wants this title so bad. So Ashnault with the victory at 149 pounds. At 157 pounds, what will happen? Top half of the bracket, honestly, it's really no competition here. It's Jason Nolf. He's just going to cruise right into the finals. Now, he's going to he could have a tough match in a couple of the guys, but one big match to look out for is the semifinals when he could wrestle Hayden Hidley of NC State, which, as you may remember, was the NCAA championship last year at 157 pounds. And because of how these guys' records fell and how the seedings fell, they're meeting they could meet in the semifinals this year. But I have Nolf winning that again, getting into the finals undefeated. And who will he be wrestling against? Well, I have him going up against Tyler Berger of Nebraska. And, you know, really, there's not much to talk about here other than I think Nolf is going to win. What could happen? I think he could pull out a pin. And why is that? Well, because it's his last college match. And we know Jason Nolf is a pinner. He's looking for that Hodge Trophy. He's also in competition with Bo Nickal as well as a couple other guys. But really, he has won so many of his matches by major decision by bonus points this year. I see him pulling out a pin in the finals, which will make that crowd go crazy in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in PPG Paints Arena. And now we're on to intermission. And as I mentioned before, make sure you check out the guide to the NCAA Wrestling Championships so you know exactly what's going on now that we're at this intermission. But let's stop stalling and move on to 165 pounds. What will happen here? This is a weight that's pretty big with the top 3 ranked competitors. We have Alex Marinelli, who just pulled off the victory against Vincenzo Joseph in the Big Ten Championships last week. A very, very big win. But it's actually a tough spot for him in the bracket now because now his second match he has to wrestle Joe Smith from Oklahoma State, who's dropping down. But I still see him pulling off that victory as well as pulling off a victory in the semifinals, probably against Wick of Wisconsin, which would be their third or fourth time wrestling this year. He's won every match, and I don't see him losing again to Wick. So I have Marinelli cruising into the finals. On the other half of the bracket, however, who do we have? Well, I have Vincenzo Joseph going up against probably Josh Shields in the semifinals. Do not sleep on Chance Marceller, who's also in this bracket, 165 pounds. there are some big matchups here. He's on the top half of the bracket, but on the bottom half, Shields and Chenzo, both Pennsylvania guys, both Whippeal guys, and they want to win a national title in their hometown as well, just like a lot of these other Whippeal guys. So I have Vincenzo making it into the finals, beating his former wrestling teammate from, not teammate rather, but wrestling rival from Whippeal, and making it into the finals, going up against Alex Marinelli of Iowa. What will happen here? Well, Marinelli is undefeated, but as we know, in the past years, Vincenzo has not won a Big Ten championship yet. He's lost to Imar, and what ended up happening in the finals when those two met again? Well, Vincenzo pinned Imar 2 years ago, and he beat him last year. I have Vincenzo pulling off the victory here as an upset in this tournament, and I have Vincenzo Joseph becoming a 3-time national champ. Next year, he'll be looking for his 4th title by my prediction. At 174 pounds, Mark Hall is the leader in this weight class. But don't forget about a couple of these other guys, such as Zahid Valencia, who he wrestled last year in the finals. Now, Mark Hall beat him in the dual meet this year, which was huge, but these guys go back and forth like nothing else. Now, Zahid is on the bottom half of the bracket, and you know who else is down there? Daniel Lewis from Missouri, who actually pinned him earlier in the year, pinned Zahid Valencia, which was massive. But what will happen this year? Well, make sure you look out for Jacoby Smith also of Oklahoma State, because like I said, guys, anything can happen at nationals. Even these guys that I'm not mentioning, we could see somebody coming out of the woodwork. And just like, you know, I mentioned a couple guys in one of my videos talking about the underrated, the dark horses of the NCAA tournament. Look out for them. But cruising into the finals, not cruising necessarily, but on the top half cruising, is Mark Hall. On the bottom half, I have Zahid avenging his loss to Daniel Lewis of Missouri, and just by a decision, make it into the finals. This will be great, a great match, a rematch from last year. What will happen? Well, just as in earlier in the year when we saw Mark Hall ride out Zahid and just show his dominance, show that he wants to win that match bad, I see Mark Hall pulling out another victory in the finals, becoming a 2-time national champion and giving Penn State another national champion this year. At 184 pounds, this is also a loaded weight class. You know, Myles Martin leads the competition as the #1 seed on the top half of the bracket. But who else do we have? Well, we have a lot of guys. We have Nino Bonacorsi of Pitt. We have Nick Reenan, Taylor Venz. We also have Zach Zavatsky, Drew Foster, Max Steen. This weight class is loaded, and you know the guys that are in this weight class have gone back and forth with victories. Myles right now is undefeated in this weight class. He's the only undefeated guy in this weight class, and besides Shakur Rashid, who you can also not forget about, who's the #2 seed. Now, I see Shakur actually maybe making it into the semifinals, but who would he be going up against? Well, probably Zach Zavatsky by my predictions. And guess what, guys? I have Zavatsky pulling off that victory. Shakur last year in the national tournament, you know, I was really pulling for him. I'm a Penn State fan, but he didn't meet all of my expectations. I actually thought he could have made it into the finals last year, and with crazy things that have happened, but at 197 pounds, whenever he was wrestling with Colin Moore and Kyle Cornell of Kent State, crazy weight at 197. But now that he's at 184, what will happen? I actually see him losing to Zavatsky of Virginia Tech in an upset. So Zavatsky makes it into the finals, but who is on the top half? Well, I see Myles Martin making it right into the finals, not a problem. But who wins that? Well, I have to give it to Myles Martin. Myles Martin has shown this entire year that he is the leader in this field. He's jacked. He has a great technique. He's very aggressive on his feet, as well as every other position, and he's just a dominant wrestler from Ohio State. I have Myles Martin pulling off his national championship, and he will become a 2-timer. Now at 197 pounds, who was Myles Martin's arch rival last year and many years before that, I have Bo Nickal, #1. He's going to make it right into the finals. Kind of like 157 pounds with Jason Nolf. You know, these two guys are the top pound-for-pound guys in the entire country. I don't see them struggling much in their weight classes. But what about the rest of the weight class? Well, at 197 pounds, I actually have another upset. So I have Colin Moore on the bottom half of this bracket, and in the semifinals, I actually have him going up against Preston Weigel of Oklahoma State. And because I said it's an upset, yeah, I have Weigel winning this. Now, these two guys, they actually have not met this year, but they do have a similar match in Jacob Warner of Iowa. Both of these matches were very similar, 5-3, 5-2 scores, and so that's why I think this match will be very close. Weigel is a guy who likes to keep it close and is a pretty solid guy on top. I see him going up and having a good skill set up against Colin Moore, who obviously is one of the top ranked guys in the country, a top tier wrestler. But, you know, last year we saw him get upset by Kyle Cornell of Kent State, which was absolutely wild, made the place go berserk. I see another upset happening here. Weigel moving into the finals, and that means both of these guys at 197 pounds would be undefeated in the finals, which would be insane. Weigel is one of the only guys who's not the #1 ranked wrestler who in the weight class who's undefeated. There are two other guys who are not #1 ranked wrestlers that are also undefeated. Let me know in the comments below if you know who I'm talking about. But what will happen in the finals? I see Bo, just like I mentioned in my video with the Penn State versus Oklahoma State match, I have Bo pulling off a major decision. Like I said, Weigel likes to keep it kind of close, and I don't want to say stall, but you know, he's a guy that is aggressive, but he knows his boundaries. But I know that Bo will always be looking for bonus points. I see him pulling out a major decision, ending his career with a major decision with a bonus victory. Bo Nickal's third national championship, and at 285 pounds. Because of the Big Ten championships, this weight just got even more crazy last weekend. We have Derek White right now, who's the #1 seed, because he has a win over Anthony Cassar, who is right now the #2 seed. The #3 seed at heavyweight is Gable Steveson. And this is pretty interesting because, you know, these three guys all have wins and losses against each other. But also, let's not forget about #4 Jordan Wood. Now, Jordan Wood has a loss to each of these guys, so it only makes sense that he's the 4th seed. That was the easy guy to seed. But Wood will probably be going up. If he continues to win on the championship bracket, he will be going up against Derek White in the semifinals. What will happen here? Well, because of their last match, I actually have Wood getting the upset in the semifinals. It was a 3-2 match last time in the dual meet with Lehigh and Oklahoma State. Of course, Wood is from Lehigh. Now, this would be huge. This would be huge and throw a big ringer into the bracket. And I have Wood making it to the finals, but on the other side, in the semifinals, we have a potential Big Ten Championships rematch with Gable Steveson and Anthony Cassar of Penn State. Now, what will the Minnesota Steveson do against Cassar this time? Look, it was a close match last time, and I don't see it going much differently. You know, these guys are both aggressive. Even though the Big Ten Championship match didn't necessarily show their aggressiveness in the first 2 periods at least, the 3rd period, those guys showed up. They were filling each other up, and now they know exactly what to expect out of each other. But what will happen? I actually have Steveson pulling off that victory just slightly. Even though Cassar is in his 6th year, he wants that title really bad. So does Steveson. He actually wants 4 titles, and I think it could happen. Although he's not undefeated anymore, I see him making it to the finals, just barely beating Cassar, going up against Jordan Wood of Lehigh. What will happen there? I really think that, similar to last time, Steveson will win that and become a heavyweight champ. So those are all of my predictions. I have Spencer Lee winning at 125 pounds. Stefan Miches at 133. At 141 pounds, I have Yianni Diakomihalis. 149, Anthony Ashnault. Jason Nolf winning at 157 pounds for Penn State. 165 is Vincenzo Joseph. Continuing on with the Penn State guys, at 174 pounds, Mark Hall. 184 pounds, Myles Martin pulls out the victory. Bo Nickal wins at 197 pounds, and at heavyweight, Gable Steveson wins his first national championship. But who wins the team title? Well, Guys, my pick has to be Penn State. Right now, I have 5 guys in the finals, and I have 4 of them winning it, with the potential for there to be more with Shakur Rashid. What if Roman Bravo Young pulls out something crazy? Guys, these guys are going to score points like crazy, and I don't see them stopping. They're bonus point city, and that will continue on into the national tournament. Penn State will win the title. And if you guys are interested in more wrestling related videos, make sure you check out all these videos coming up here. Thanks for watching.